Calvin T. Mann, leading EMIY, served over 20,000 youth through speaking, coaching, and mentoring. He has inspired us for years. Welcome to EMIY TV Podcast with your host, Calvin T. Mann, the Encourager.
Good day, good people. I know you were expecting a more masculine face today, but because we are celebrating women this month, I am going to fly solo for a bit as I introduce to you women in my life, in my circle, who I celebrate, who I value, who I respect. Today, as we feature amazing woman that is going to share some amazing stories about herself and her journey and some things to come that you might be interested in finding out about in our community. I'm going to introduce to you Miss Alexandra Nichols. She is our featured guest this week as we are looking at keeping your family first on the EMIY TV podcast. I'd like to introduce Alexandra Nichols. I'm going to ask her to tell you a little bit about herself, but I also want to start by sharing with you what an amazing woman she is. There's a number of things that she's done. One, she is a community advocate. She's an advocate for our alma mater, Detroit Central High School. She's an advocate for families. She's an advocate for history and Black history. And you'll learn more about how she expresses her advocacy and how she expresses her support in our community and some of the work that she's done since she's been a part of this community. And so born and raised in the city of Detroit, she has been an asset to media. She's been an asset to our culture. And I'm so excited to introduce and have her here today in our studio. So I'm just going to let Alexandra, I call her Alex, I'm going to let Alex share a little bit about herself with you today. And so I'm just going to invite her to come on.
Hey, Heather, how you doing? Hey, everybody. I'll take the applause. Thank you. It's so fun to be here in the studio with people smiling and sharing joy. And I hope you guys are feeling joy out there as you watch this program, Heather and Calvin, throughout the weeks and broadcasts and posts. And comment, share, and let them know that you're watching. But just a little bit about myself, Heather. I've known Heather a long time, since our teen years. And a lot of why we came together is because of our love of community and the adults that supported us in that. And Heather and I, we have that in common, that the adults that get poured into us, it's up to us to pour into the people in our communities the way that they poured into us. So that keeps us together in our pathways and life journeys. About myself, I'm a daughter, mother, sister, community member. I take my role as a daughter seriously. My parents poured a lot into me. They did everything intentionally in my life, and so I take my role as a daughter very seriously. Although my parents have gone on, they're still watching me, so sorry, Mom and Dad, for some of the stuff you see. You can only laugh about it now. It's been a while, and, losing parents, nobody tells you that how it's going to be until it is. So right now, it's smiling day. Thanks for everything you did and poured into me. In terms of being a mother, I have 2 boys, Jamal and Bilal. I'm so proud of them. What a blessing to be a mother, I got my grandkids, Janae and Brandon. I have other grandkids, just God kids, not grandkids, sorry. God kids sprinkled around that I really, 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 really just proud to be attached to them. And then as a sister and a community member, I'm a sister to everybody. I'm an auntie, Auntie Alex. You guys can call me Alex if you see me on the street. And just a community member, because that's how my parents and my mother especially, that's what I saw her doing. So love of community is strong in my heart.
So tell us a little bit about your work history. When we are with, right now we're at the Podcastic Studios with EMIY TV. engaging in our Put Your Family First video, but I want you to talk a little bit about your journey in media and kind of what it awakened in you over the years.
Wow. Over the years, I just go back to being, in the den watching TV and just being mesmerized about what's behind the TV set and just not allowing myself to watch TV, but really be engaged by the whole process of TV. And that led me to really love commercials. It led me to love all forms and genres of media. Basically, because just the way that it was put together, I was fascinated by. And so I just kept trekking on my journey to find out more about TV, electronics, broadcasting, directing and producing until it led me into a TV and film career.
So can you tell us about some things that you did locally, like some things maybe you did at Northwestern, some things you did with the news media and those stations?
Mm-hmm. Wow, it's so important. Right now I am an educator. I work in Northwestern High School. I'm a reading coach, SAT prep, and sometimes the lunch lady. That's fun. It's just, when I got out of college, I did look to the Detroit public school system as a source of employment. Lo and behold, they needed a radio TV technician. That was right up my alley. And I was married, I had a growing family, and it gave me stability to work for the Detroit public schools. And knowing they had a TV studio, 2 radio studios, and I was able to work, be off at 3:30 and get my kids and be home. And it was a great foundation. And then from there, I was able to get some work at radio stations and then with Channel 4 and just build my production experience and be able to share it with the students as well, because as I learned on the job, I'm teaching them that everybody's not made for college. You may be made for a trade school, and definitely during that time, having a part-time job in audio engineering at Channel 4 helped supplement my income greatly. I was making more there per hour than I seemed like in a whole week. But I had benefits with DPS, and I had stability, and that's something I try and tell a lot of young people. Don't shy from the local school board to look for employment, because it can lead you in the right direction. And so it led me in the right direction, just being employed back by DPS, the school the district I graduated from, and to see the opportunities that I had in life flourish from there is just amazing. So I was able to take what I learned with Turner at Channel 4 and move down to Atlanta and work for Turner Broadcasting, where the love of my love for broadcasting just flourished. I thought I'd move into broadcast technology and broadcast engineering, but I still had this desire to follow in the footsteps of one of my mentors, one of my heroes, Spike Lee, and others like him and before him that just had stories to tell and knew that our stories had to be told. So I said, no, I'm not going, I got to pursue the story-making journey that my heart is on. And so after 3-4 years with Turner Broadcasting, I decided to move to California and get a film degree. And that was exciting because I was able to bring one of my stories from our family, oral history stories, to life. I never knew that was going to be my final project, and how could I ever have known that it would garner me Best Picture and Best Screenplay awards, and for a story from my mother and my great-grandmother's last summer sharecropping. And so those stories and everything that you enrich you really can help you see the light at the end of the tunnel. I think staying true to yourself and knowing that where you are and where you came from can really help bolster your career and your life in ways that you may not even expect. So I think staying close to my roots in Detroit, staying close to how I was raised, and the stories that I was told helped me have success in my career and in my community of filmmakers.
Thank you for that. I think it's amazing. Can people still see the film? Is there a way for them to still be able to see your film?
Yeah, I have copies. If you want to see it, I could send you a copy, or you could watch it on, I think Daily Motion has a copy. It's Step to Hell.
Okay.
It's called Step to Hell, and my name at the time when I was in film school was Alexandra Overton. So if you look up Academy of Art University, Step to Hell, and Alexandra Overton, you'll be able to watch it.
Can you mentioned that story is about family. You said your mother and your grandmother.
My great-grandmother, yes.
Your great-grandmother, okay. Can you give a little insight into that story so they know what to look for?
Oh, yeah, it's about the gritty South, the gritty realness of living in the South in the early 50s, where blacks were still working with landowners in a sharecropping economic system where, you work the land and the landowner is supposed to give you what they owe you for working the land. And my mom would go down south and do this with my great-grandmother in the summer times. And so, I don't know, when she would tell the stories, I had kind of happy visions. She was a young girl just running around kind of in the country and helping grandmother out sometime or not sometimes. But I quickly, when I started talking to my sister and other people in my family about the reality of it, when I wanted to make sure I captured the story correctly, it was a tumultuous time. It was a time of great stress and a time when blacks had to cower to whites and not look them in the eye and say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, no, sir, and definitely not supposed to talk back or talk smart or be flippant in any kind of way. But, this time, my great-grandmother wasn't having it. Okay? And they wanted to say that they didn't have nothing coming for their summer's worth of work. And my grandmother challenged that. And that was the wrong thing to do back then, even just to challenge. And this landowner stepped up towards my great-grandmother and seemingly to strike her of some sort or inflict harm on her. But she told that man, the next step you take will be a step to hell. But they had to leave town after that.
Wow.
Ain't no staying around for after you say that to a white man. And so the story doesn't go into the fact that most of the family, came up to Michigan and for a better future for their families and things and looking for work. And consequently, my parents met at Tiger Stadium.
Wow.
My mom was selling peanuts and my dad was coming to buy some. And so, shortly after, 4 or 5 years later, that my mom found herself married after that incident, in the South. So, just the courage of my great-grandmother to say to a white man at the time, the next step you take will be a step to hell, that just gave me courage from right now. Just to even say, no, she said that. It's in my veins, too. And so that's the story. And I hope to maybe develop it more, maybe the love story portion of my parents who then married and had 10 children of their own, and I'm the 10th child. So that's a love story in itself, and just the fact that led them to my parents' meeting, I guess. Special.
The important piece of that you mentioned, that this one was your great-grandmother. So that means it left your grandmother, it left your mother, and as you said, it pulsates in your veins. That level of courage is so true. We talk about that all the time, about what's on your DNA and those experiences and where they come from. So when you are looking for courage, so that means that it's also in your son's DNA. That means when they're looking for courage, they can always pull and draw from what's already a part of them. And so I think that is a really important way that we also celebrate your legacy. And so what I hear is that's 3 generations above you. And then you have 1 generation so far below you, which is your sons. And when they have their children and their children's children, that legacy and that story, because you made it permanent, a permanent fixture where people can access it, that becomes part of their legacy as well. And I think it's amazing as a family to be able to look back on your history, because so many of us have been disconnected from that history. We've been, a lot of our history has been misappropriated, taken from us because of the division, even having to move from where their roots were at home to have to move to another place. I mean, there are a lot of families, including mine, that had that experience. That was my father's experience with my great-grandfather. So I get it. I totally understand that. And that's still a part of our DNA. Their story is a part of our story. What they intended for us, which I think is also amazing, that you actually are the fulfillment of what your great-grandmother wanted for her legacy, for her children. You got to fulfill that with going to film school and following your dream to become a award-winning producer. I mean, what more could our foremothers and forefathers want for us than to be able to fulfill our dreams, live our greatest dreams? And you are a witness to that. And so we celebrate you this important Women's History Month. We celebrate your great-grandmother for this important history that she imprinted on your family and on your family DNA as a legacy. So definitely applaud you for that. I want to talk a little bit and shift a little bit more, because I know we're going to need a little more time. But I want you to have in mind how you want people to reach out to you. If you have an email address or phone number that you want them to reach out to you to get involved in this next project that you have, this amazing project you have coming up this June, which I want to kind of segue into that. I think it's important, as you talk about history and legacy, that we look at our community history and legacy. And I, just from how you describe your next project, I think it's a tremendous effort. And all of those who are involved currently, who should be involved, who want to be involved, we want to make sure that they have a good understanding of how important this project is and how it's only the beginning. It's not the end. You're starting this with the end in mind, which is something that can, again, be passed on through our legacy, something that can be passed on through our local history, just as those who have been involved, who have come before us, we celebrate them. So I want you to announce some information about this new project. Can you share that?
I sure can. Thank you, Heather. What a wonderful explanation of family and generational wealth in terms of courage, in terms of integrity, in terms of having a long game mindset that you shared about the generations with my great-grandmother down through to my sons. And I have to also add your mother into the mix, because her love of movies, because I don't love movies the way she loves movies. She loves movies. It's a different love. And when I saw the love that she had for movies, I knew I had to make movies. People like her, my niece Jennifer, and people who have large collections of movies, they're the reason why I do it. So I wanted to uplift your mother in this, because she was one of the first people that I shared my award-winning film with, and because she always believed in me and supported me, along with my sisters and my mother, my family, your mother, and you, of course. Just constant support. But with that said, this next project, something your mother and my mother have been instrumental in as well. Just marching. We're just energy for no energy's sake, right? Just community, being together, marching, bands, music, trombones, drums, drum lines, buses, kids. Who wouldn't want to be a part of all of that? So when I had a chance to help to help and be a part of a committee to bring a parade to the community, I was all in, because I know what it feels like to have the adults in the community come out and cheer you on, marching in the community. It's something that I lived for, something that brought so much joy. The anticipation of it could not be understated. It was talked about months to come. The rehearsals upon rehearsals to prepare to be the best, it still is something that I had to be a part of bringing back to our community. And so I'm speaking of the historic Broad Street Parade that is no more, but this is in that same spirit. It's in this Juneteenth parade is in the spirit of the MLK Day parade that happens every year with Martin Luther King High School when they march down Lafayette. This parade is in the spirit of when HBCU bands come and battle here and march down Woodward. This parade is in the spirit of all the band directors, all the community organizers and youth groups who pour into their youth, and now here's our chance to celebrate them, to celebrate all of their hard work throughout the year and throughout the years of just trying to be excellent and reaching excellence. And so Detroit has a rich heritage, and I think that having this first annual historic Juneteenth parade will further solidify that. Okay, Detroit is known for a lot of firsts, and we want to be the first to, at this first annual Juneteenth parade, to honor our well-known and respected, now deceased Congressman John Conyers Jr. Okay, his contributions are what exemplifies the meaning of Juneteenth. Every milestone of his life puts an exclamation point on why we need to celebrate Juneteenth. And so the life he lived, and especially because at this point in time, because I'm working in Northwestern High School, that's the high school he went to, a community high school, a legacy high school, a high school that has turned out many, 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 many persons who have shaped the city of Detroit, our state, and our nation, especially the Honorable John Conyers Jr. and his family. And so we want to honor him during this first parade. And the years after, hopefully, this is where I see it headed, it's the first annual, so it means we got to have one every year. We'll honor those like him. Hopefully we can get Ketanji Brown Jackson then, our first African-American Supreme Court Justice, and others like her and him. Why wouldn't she want to come and be celebrated in Detroit? I think that it would be a great honor for her to come here and know that we care and about her position of what she's attained for the betterment of us all. And so it's people like that, and even just local folks being involved, maybe working with the parade company, maybe working with the Woodward Dream Cruise or other auto clubs to take part in our short parade, and just to bring the folks out with some excitement, okay, of those, who appropriate float or appropriate specialty car that may bring out just the right element to help show everybody that the love and community is still here in Detroit, not just on Juneteenth, but every day. And we just want to take the time to let the kids know that participate, and the community members know we're here for each other. We are here for each other. The pandemic is subsiding, and it's time to come together and show everybody we can do this. We can come together in unity and march together and have a great time ending it, starting at Northwestern High School, a few short blocks down West Grand Boulevard, going up Rosa Parks Boulevard. How appropriate is that? Rosa Parks Boulevard, Virginia Park Community, the Joseph Walker Williams Community Center for our program and celebration. It's going to be a great day.
Thank you, Alex. It's so much richness to what you shared. It kind of brings back those days, and I'm so glad you mentioned the Broad Street Parade. Alex and I, that's one of the areas that we have in common, not just at our local high school, Central. Alex was a majorette, I was a flag girl. We were the Golden Girls, and so we performed, of course, through dance and expression. under the leadership of Jennifer Johnson, who was one of our choreographer and our mentor. She's one of the first women I can say in high school that I can actually identify as a mentor. She was very intentional about how we carried ourselves, about the body language that we used, that we weren't vulgar and we didn't present ourselves in a way that was more sexual than expressive. And she made a very clear distinction about the two at that time. And so Alex didn't mention this, but she went on to also be a majorette at Tennessee State University.
Like Jennifer Johnson.
Yes, like those before us, because we had actually a lot of our teachers that were present at Central High School had attended Tennessee State too, and both of us ended up at Tennessee State. I was a performer for the Tigerettes, which was the performers for the our basketball team, so like our halftime shows. But that love of expression and self-expression through dance and movement kind of stayed with us, and you know how it goes back into your history. And how the women of your life kind of supported and influenced that. My parents, my family followed us. They were here in Detroit. We would travel with our high school band, and we would go to different cities. And my family would show up. They showed up in Washington. They showed up in Virginia. They showed up in places. And from a large family to have that kind of support, navigate where you would show up just to be a support to you. You know, again, another reason to celebrate our mothers. They didn't have to do that, but they chose to do that. They chose to show us that they supported us in the areas of our passion. And so, again, thankful for my mother, thankful for my family, and same for Alex's family, too, because even once we got to Tennessee State, another common ground, she was my roommate. Alexandra was my roommate. And just the experiences of life, you know, when you're starting to make your own decisions and choices, you know, we still encourage our supportive family on Emmy TV podcast. We have to put our families first. And those are values that you learn over time. You may not agree with a lot of things that your parents, set for you as their core values, or the things that you had permission to do and the things that you didn't. You may not have agreed with it, but their intention was always for your best. Their intention was always for you to live your greatest dreams. And I think it's really important that those values have been a part of us as mothers. We want the same for our sons, and Alex is a very supportive mother of her sons as well, and supporting their dreams. You want to talk a little bit about how, as a mother, you support the dreams of your sons?
Well, it goes too far sometimes. I'm not a helicopter mom, but I'm the type of mom, like my son played football. He played for my oldest son, Jamal. He played for, of course, high school ball. Then he went to Iowa, then he went to a JC, then he went to UNLV, but I was ready to, take referee.
You ready to take him out?
I was ready to become a referee, to be able to stay in his field and be knowledgeable of all things football. For my youngest son, who is a PhD candidate in his last year and a PhD in chemistry, I'm willing to maybe help him design, new cities for, the electric battery research type thing that he's into now. But you eventually you have to let them go and fly and do what they want to do. But what's interesting though is later on in life, Jamal came back and Mom, I want to get a headshot. I want to try commercials. Then Bilal is like, Mom, who's that guy you introduced me to that he's a sportscaster? I think I want to get into sportscasting. Listen, what you do around your children matters.
Yes, absolutely.
Can't say that enough.
Yes.
I could have chosen to do entertainment in a variety different, any way. But because I was a young mom, because I knew my children have to be with me a lot of the times, and this and that, like I said earlier, working with the school board, my kids saw me right at high school, working in TV and radio. They were there. They were with me when I had a youth channel in Atlanta. with that public access station. They were part of the youth channel, doing all the things, creating right along with me. In Atlanta, in LA, even with the film I produced, my mother and my great-grandmother, every step of the way, they helped me pick the fire I used. They helped me pick some of the more post-production elements to make it more authentic. I had them involved. You got to do things that your kids can be involved in and keep them near you, because they will need you. They will know that you are a professional or expert or have this tidbit of information to help enrich their lives. So that yes, I support my children, and I encourage others to do so as well, because it just enriches their lives so to have that parental support.
Yes, and that's both parents, because we know that kids need both parents.
That's correct.
It is really important. It was the circumstance, I had a chance to meet and get to know Alex's parents, her mother and her father, and her siblings, and they were awesome people, embracing you, encouraging you, correcting you, directing you. And I'd like to think that even today, we can still have that village. We still have the parents that look out for their friends, their children's friends and their children. Those aspects, those elements of community are extremely important. You can't just let things go. And I know in the day and time that we're in, some of us are very, very ambivalent about getting involved in other people's affairs, about encouraging people. But if we don't do that, if they've never experienced that, how would they know the difference? If we don't involve ourselves in a way that's healthy and respectful, our children and those who are extensions of us may never have that opportunity to understand this is what's normal. It's not normal for people not to say something to you. It's not normal for people not to correct you and redirect you. That's the thing that's not normal in our community. Our community has always been that way for me. My community embraced me. If you were doing something out of order, they said, "Do your parents know you're doing that?" I mean, they're quick to help you rethink your decisions or your choices and give you room to do that. But it's just really important that happens. It's important as a community. The center of community is unity. We have to remember that, and in unity is you and I. That means it's a collective of us. We come together to make this community work. We come together to do that. It's not somebody else's responsibility. We have to do that. And so I'm happy to say that that we come from that same space, that we come from that place in family. We come from that place in community, and we pour that back into the spaces that we occupy. And so I'm glad you have the opportunity to move in education and move in your professional field and move and navigate in ways, one, that help to realize your dream, but help you also tell this important story. We need more people who are telling our story, both in media, without the stereotypes. So it's enough stereotypes to typecast a person as a particular and a particular value. However, we're so much more than that. And so your ability and your gifts to tell the story, also to help other people tell their story. And I really want you to talk about that aspect of what you do in terms of coaching other families around telling their story. I think that's an important service that you offer. It's a paid service, but a service nonetheless. Some people don't know how to tell their story or where to begin. And so if you don't mind sharing a little bit about that.
Sure, not a problem. Heather, family, wow. Some people get stuck maybe thinking that they don't need anyone, and the people they've run into have just done them wrong, and people are no good because they've seen so many people act out of spite or some other unlovely way. But it just, hold on. A friend is going to come along. Hold on, a friend is going to come along. And so just hold on and keep holding on, because your family doesn't have to be by blood, okay? Family comes, it's a miracle the way family happens. So I wanted to add that to what you shared for the listeners. But In terms of, so you take love of being around people and being in groups and being around music, and then you match that with filmmaking and storytelling and helping folks decide what's important for them. And entertainment takes a lot of forms, and when you look at folks' oral stories, they usually have a foundation of courage, a foundation of longevity, a foundation of visionaries, foundation of healings, a foundation of revelations that people latch on to that give them life and meaning to move on. And so when I talk with families who want to take an oral history story or any story, a book or some idea that they have, and move it into a visual medium, I find out why is it important to them. And I'm really, and you're listening, right, and taking notes and seeing what type of resources and or research that may need to happen to help them make this idea come to reality. And I'll, just for an example, I did a oral history piece titled 18 Miles, and it chronicled the 54 years of love shared between a couple, Ruth and Joseph. And we did reenactments of when they first met. We did a reenactment of when their first date. We did a reenactment of this was so important, this right here. They sat down together before getting married and said, I will do this, I will do that. And then he said, I will do this and I will do that. And they stuck to that contract. They actually sat down at the table and had a contract with one another and said, we will not depart from this thing. And that experience of depicting, so we used all of their grandkids to do the reenactments. We shopped in thrift stores. It was period specific. So this was 1952, 53, 54. And just that one scene of them two sitting at the dining room table discussing what they would do for each other within the marriage was kind of the anchor in this piece, because out of that came loads and loads of love and children and success. And Mr. Lincoln was the first black man to own a automobile service station in Pomona, California. This was after joining the Army, doing his stint in the Army. Joining the Air Force, doing his stint in the Air Force, and getting his paratrooper training. And then, as he was leaving the office after turning it in, everything, another recruiter approached him from the Army and said, hey, boy, how'd you like to earn $25 more a month? He said, doing what? Enlist in the Army. He said, I'll take it. Because he was getting married. He was starting a family. He did it for the love of his family. And so Mr. Lincoln told me 8 stories, okay? Wow. And he went over those 8 stories. I transcribed them, wrote them down, gave them to him. He took those stories, talked it over with his family, and they decided the one that they wanted to do was a story that told the love of he and Ruth and their 54 years of marriage. Not the story with the Korean War, where where they was treating blacks like, the worst in the world. But in the war, they had to treat them right, okay? They came together in an ambush overnight to defeat the enemy when he was just a tire guy. But he ended up being a rifle guy, a sniper, on the lookout, on the route, getting all these tanks up the route with all of these equipment that they needed. But he was just supposed to be the guy replacing the big tires. But he ended up being a sniper on that hill, protecting. That was one of the stories he told me. The story about starting his auto service. The story of growing up with his parents. But ultimately, he settled on the one with the love of his life. And so every time I see anything about the military and armies and during the 50s and 40s and all the stock footage material that I went through to show black men going through their paratrooper training. And the movie is called 18 Miles because he had to walk the last 18 miles of his journey after getting his last certification paratrooper training. He had to walk 18 miles to the next Army base to make it to his wedding on time. And on that walk, a white man came by him in the dead of night. Now, that could go a couple of ways. We know that for blacks. In Arkansas. He stopped. The man stopped at him, and the man said, "Boy, you need a ride?" He said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I'll take you. Hop in." Community. Okay? It takes community. He had that ring of Ruth in his hand, and he didn't know if he was going to make it or not. But there came the miracle. There came the man in the dark of night that took him the rest of the miles to get to the base so that he could get to the wedding on time. So that's an example of one of the movies that I did. And if anybody wants to contact me and find out if they want to do an oral history story, or they have a book, or they just have an idea that they want to share about their family or make sure that their family's legacy is preserved in a video format, you can contact me, Alexandra Nichols. My phone number is 323-378-7429. If you want to email me, AOVERTONNJC@gmail.com. And, of course, if you're a member of the mailing list for Heather and Calvin, you can send them a line and they'll get you in touch with me.
Thank you, Alex. I do want to kind of shift back to your project, because this is a major project that you're a part of, this Juneteenth parade and celebration. So people who might want to know more, get involved, be a part of the committee, sponsor a float, sponsor a band, sponsor something within that event, how do they get in touch with you the same way?
Yeah, they can get in touch with me the same way.
Okay, let's give it to them again.
Yeah, 323 is my phone number. I used to live in Los Angeles, guys, so, it works the same as 313. Anyway, I think I'm a comedian in my former life. But anyway, 323-378-7429. Just give me a call, send me a text. I'll reach out to you. I want everybody to be involved. Anyone can be involved. We do have an opportunity for you to be a sponsor, and I'd be happy to go over those areas with you. Maybe there's your club or organization that wants to be involved, and you want your staff and your volunteer members or your active members to come out and hold a banner and walk on Juneteenth and show the pride of your organization. We're happy to have you. We want organizations, nonprofits, for-profits, come out and support us. We're starting in Northwestern High School. We'll be there bright and early, lining up. 7:30 a.m. We're going to march down West Grand Boulevard, make that left turn at Rosa Parks Boulevard. We know Rosa. We're going to stand up for Rosa that day. And we're going to march on up a few more blocks to Euclid and Rosa Parks at the Joseph Walker Williams Center, and just have our program and continue the celebration, celebrating Detroiters, the unity that we have, and what we've done, what African Americans have done for the city, the state, and the nation. And we're going to give out that John Conyers Jr. Award and make sure that we continue to do this every year.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm always so excited to hear about your projects and see what you're doing in the community. And since we are celebrating Women's History Month, I thought it fitting that you be part of this celebration. As you are pushing to celebrate others, let us celebrate you as well. So I thank you for being here. And just on behalf of our team, Emmy, the co-host Dave Patterson, me, Heather Heteru, and our amazing, handsome host, Calvin T. Mann, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today and taking this next step about first, put your family first. METV podcast, we are encouraging you to put your family first. This is one of the ways that we build unity and community, is by doing this first, teaching our legacy. making sure our history, our stories are being told, making sure that we are connecting to one another, that we are supporting each other, that we are respecting each other. So this is an important one for all of us to just take a moment to look at the women in our lives and celebrate them, honor them, tell their stories, highlight them. Until next time, I am Heather Hetheru, standing in for Calvin T. Mann for our METV podcast. You can reach out to me at Heather Hetheru at gmail.com, or you can reach me at my website at www.yourinspiredjourney.com. And if you want to get involved with us at EMI, you can always reach out to us at EMIWorld.com. That's EMIY World.com. Check out our website, see what we have going on next, and join us. And join the Juneteenth Parade Committee. Thank you for joining us today. Have an awesome rest of your day.